Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a full face of affordable makeup. I love affordable makeup, and if you love affordable makeup as well and you want to hang out with me today, then just keep on watching. To begin, I'm going to prime my eyes with the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer, and I use the shade 11 Vanilla. Just going to apply a little bit to my eyelid. You can use an eyeshadow primer if you like, but I always just use my concealer. I'm taking this Morphe M173 brush to blend things out. Okay, so now that I have my concealer applied, I'm going to go into the eyeshadow. Some people like to set their concealer with a powder. I personally don't. I have really dry eyelids and I just like to avoid powder at all costs. For eyeshadow palettes, I chose the Maybelline of New York palette. So to start, I'm going to go into this Ivory shade that has a hint of yellow in it. It's really cool. And I'm going to see if that's dark enough to use as a transition shade. So I'm just going to start putting the shadow in my crease and windshield wiper motions. Okay, so that color didn't really show up as much as I was hoping it would. So next I'm going to be taking the shade Creator, and I'm going to be using that as my transition shade, kind of just right on top of where I put that artist color. Okay, so I'm happy with how that looks so far. So next I'm going to deepen things up a little bit, and I'm going to jump into the shade Globetrotter, which is this really pretty burnt orange, rusticy red kind of color, almost like the bricks behind me. I'm going to just take that on the same brush actually because I'm lazy, and I'm going to start working this onto the outer edge of my eye. And with darker shades like this, it's always easier to add more than to go in too quickly with too much, because you can't really take it away once you put it down. So I'm just going back and forth until I'm happy with how that looks. I'm going to take a clean, fluffy brush and just kind of blend out those edges a little bit. Okay, so next I'm going to be going into the shade Inspirer. It's a really pretty gold color, but it almost has like a hint of green in it. And I'm just going to be tapping that on my lid, focusing most of the pigment closest to the lash line, and focusing the color as well in the center of my eyelid. And do the same thing on the other eye. Okay, so you might have to layer that shade up a couple times to get the intensity that you want, or you can always try wetting your brush. That sometimes works too. And finally, for the inner third of my eye, I'm going to be taking the shade Founder and applying that right here. Wow, that's beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to actually go back in with the initial transition shade we had, which was Creator. I feel like we lost that a little bit. I'm just going to use that to blend out these edges. Next, I'm just going to take the same brush that I used with the shade Globetrotter, that deep orangey, reddy shade on the outer corner, and I'm just lightly fluffing that there. Okay, so I'm liking how that looks. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to try to get it a little bit closer so that you can get a better shot. I really like how it looks so far, so let's move on to the complexion and then we'll finish up the lower lash line. So for foundation today, I'm going to be using one of my new favorites. I'm really excited about it. It's the Believe Beauty foundation. It's actually from the Dollar General makeup line, and it's only $5. It's amazing. I was a little bit skeptical. I initially heard about this foundation from Ali Glines here on YouTube, and I was a little skeptical. $5 for a foundation with a glass bottle. Sounds too good to be true, but you guys, it's really, really pretty. Obviously, I just pumped some on the back of my hand. It's pretty runny. Now, The shade for me, the undertone is slightly strange. It almost, I don't want to scare anybody, but it's almost kind of like an orangey undertone. I do have more of a yellowy undertone to my skin, so it does work for me, and it does oxidize a little bit. So just be aware that when I first apply it, it looks like it's going to be a really good match, but it kind of gets a little bit darker. I'm just going to take some on this foundation brush. I think I got this brush from TJ Maxx, and I just took one pump and I dipped into it and evenly distributed it about around my face. And I'm just going to blend that out. This foundation is more on the matte side, which I usually avoid because I have very, very dry and dehydrated skin. So I tend to go for something that's a little bit more dewy, just because it looks better on me and doesn't age me a million years. This one, it's not a drying matte, it's more of a skin-like matte, like a satin matte. It's really pretty. Somehow it still has a glow even though it dries down completely. So that's one layer. You can see it really evened out my skin tone and toned down the redness a lot. It does have very good coverage if you build this up. I wore it the other day for about 10 hours and by the end of it, it still looked amazing. I was really impressed. So for concealer, I'm just going to use my Maybelline Fit Me concealer. It's in the shade 11 Vanilla. This concealer is beautiful. It is affordable, obviously, and it has a really thin consistency, so it doesn't cake up under my eyes, which is really important to me because, like I said before, I have very dry skin and a lot of concealers look terrible and make my under eyes look crepey and make me look like I'm old. I do find that since it has such a thin consistency, I like to wait and let it dry down a little bit, like 30 seconds, so I can get the most coverage out of it. While I wait for that to dry, I'm just going to kind of touch up my brows a little bit. I'm using the Milani Precision Brow Pencil, and this is in the shade Espresso. If you want your brows to look a little bit thicker, you can actually brush down where your hairs are, so you can see where the bald spots are easier. And you can just brush them back into place. Okay, so I'm happy with how those look, and now I'm just gonna blend out my concealer. I actually usually do this with my fingers, but you can use whatever tool that you like. If you like using a sponge, if you like using a brush, whatever floats your boat. I'm just being really careful here around this inner corner, so you can see how skin-like that concealer looks. It's amazing. Oh my gosh, I forgot about my coffee. Just being careful around this outer corner. I want to I hope you can see on camera how beautiful that looks. I really like it. It looks skin-like, it doesn't look cakey, it doesn't look heavy, but it covers what I want it to cover. I'm going to remove any foundation that's on my lips because it's one of my pet peeves. I hate that. Okay, so I'm actually going to finish up the eyes now. I'm going to jump back into that Nudes of New York palette, and I'm going to take a flat kind of brush, just like this, and I'm going to go back into that Creator shade. Smudge that along the lower lash line. I'm not going to take it all the way in, but like halfway. I think I'm going to next go into that Artist shade, and I'm going to take that on like a little pointy kind of brush. I'm going to put that right here, the inner third of my eye. I'm going to smudge it underneath here too, just to blend. I actually think I want some shimmer on the lower lash line, so I'm going to just pretty much do the same thing that I did on the top. I'm going to take the shade Inspire, wet the brush, and I'm just going to apply that gently. Same thing on the other side. Okay, and using that same brush, I'm just going to then go into the shade Founder, which is the more gold color. And I'm just going to pop that right here in the inner third of my lower lash line. Oops, I got some in my eye. Oh my goodness. I really like how that looks. So pretty, so fall. I love it. And then I'm just going to go back in again with that creator shade. And lastly, on a very tiny brush, I'm just going to go back into that Globetrotter shade, the burnt red color, and I'm just going to lightly apply that very, very close. Not lightly, but I'm going to carefully apply that very, very close to my lower lash line. Okay, I'm happy with how that looks. So next, I'm going to go into bronzer. And for bronzer today, I'm going to be going into one of my favorites from the drugstore. It's the Milani Silky Matte Bronzer. It is so beautiful. It's a very neutral kind of color, almost cool toned. Just the right shade for me because I have very fair skin. It's sometimes easy to over apply bronzer, I should say. So I like this one because it's not too dark right away. This is a more hard pressed bronzer, so it feels very stiff in the pan, but it just blends out so easily. And I'm just lightly dusting it. I'm not trying to do anything very heavily sculpted, just bringing that along the hairline, also along the jawline. Also, so my nose doesn't look really weird, I'm gonna just lightly dust some there on the bottom, kind of bring it under here, under my brows. Okay, and then actually on that same fluffy brush, I'm going to be taking my blush, which is the Wet n Wild blush in the shade Nudist Society. I really like this color, and it's super affordable, obviously. I don't know why I keep saying that, but yeah, I'm just swirling around. It's almost like a pinky color, but also has some brown in there and some red. It's a very nice nude color, so the name is very accurate. And I'm just going to apply that right here to the apples of my cheeks, blending backwards. I love that color because it's not too overpowering, and with a more glam eye look like this, it just adds a little bit of color and life to your cheeks, but doesn't, you know, it's not overkill. And I'm also going to take a little bit of that blush as well and just kind of feather that up here. Makes everything a little bit more cohesive, I think. Okay. So I should say that that blush does have tiny little bits of sparkle in it. If that bothers you, you might not like this, but I generally don't like sparkles in my blush, but I look past it because I love the color so much and it's so dang affordable. So for highlighter, I'm going to be taking my Essence Pure Nude Highlighter. This is a cult favorite here on YouTube. I'm going to be taking this ColourPop F5 brush. It's fluffy but really small. Oops, didn't see that. Okay, so it's fluffy but really small, and I love this for highlighter because it's easy to buff it out and it doesn't leave like a harsh streak on your face. Let me just show you. I use small circular motions because I don't want a stripe on my face, and I find that this is the best way to diffuse the color, to diffuse the highlight and make it look the most natural. So I'm going to take a little bit on the nose, on the Cupid's bow. I also bring a little bit under my eyes. We saw I brought a little bit on my forehead. This is such a natural highlight that you can kind of apply it all over and it doesn't look like too much. So to finish off, we're going to do the lips, and I'm going to go in with one of my favorite lip pencils ever. This is the NYX lip pencil. They have really great, I don't know if you can see. Can you see that? The struggle is real, guys. Amateur YouTuber here. I don't know. I'll link it. I'll put the description down below, but this is in the shade Natural. Looks so weird when I'm filling in my lips. I'm gonna make like a face. You all know if you've ever applied lip liner. I'm gonna go in with this Essence Shine 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 lip gloss. It's in the shade No Brainer. It's really pretty. A pinky, nudie kind of color. It almost matches the blush really well, but it's a little bit less red. And it has little bits of sparkle in it, but you can't feel it on the lips. This gloss has a really strong smell. It smells like candy. I don't personally really enjoy the scent, but I look past it because the finish is just so beautiful. It's not sticky. It feels so good and nourishing on the lips, and it's so shiny and pretty. Okay, so to finish, I'm just going to apply some mascara, and I'm going to take my Almay Extreme Lengths Mascara, the one in the teal tube. I like this mascara because I have very sensitive eyes, and this one does not irritate them. Okay, so I like how that looks. I think I'm going to set the face with some setting spray. And to do that, I'm going to use my Morphe Continuous Mist. I also really like the Catrice Dewy Glow. It's one of my favorites. Ooh, I love setting spray. Especially for people with dry skin, it is a lifesaver. It just helps all your products melt in together, and if anything is ever looking too dry or cakey, a good setting spray will really help. And you can even do it like in the middle of the day. Just go in and refresh with some setting spray. It really helps. Okay, and lastly, I'm just going to set the brows, and I'm going to use my NYX Control Freak Brow Gel. This one it almost looks like a mascara because it's so big, and it has a really big wand, which some people might not like. But this is clear, so I don't mind because it's not like a tinted brow gel where it can get all over your face. The tinted one that I like is the Essence Make Me Brow. I forget what it's called, but I'll put it down below. This one's really nice though if you just want a more natural kind of brow. If you want some color, I would go with the Essence one. Yeah guys, this is the finished look. I'll kind of get a little bit closer so you can see what it looks like. So yeah, I had a lot of fun creating this look. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I had a lot of fun. This is like such a blessing to be able to do this and to film videos for you guys. I hope someone out there finds them helpful. I hope that you guys had just as much fun hanging out with me as I did hanging out with you. If you did, you can give this video a thumbs up. It would help me out so much, and also subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to try to post every single week, and also click on the bell so that you can be notified every time that I do upload. Thank you again so much for watching and hanging out today. It was a lot of fun, and I hope that you like this look. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!